Welcome, everybody, to another edition of the Winner's Circle Sports Betting Podcast, right here on the Winner's Circle Sports Betting channel, brought to you by gamblersworld.com. I'm a happy guy today. You know why? I won my NBA pick last night on the Denver Nuggets and keep rolling in the NBA playoffs. And the other reason why is I get to talk to my good buddy, Doug Upstone, who I haven't talked to since Monday. And Doug, by the way, folks, he won his MLB Game of the Year last night, and I'm going to let him tell you all about it.
Well, hey, before we do that, I want to go back to about you though. That was, you've been just blazing hot, in the NBA, okay, just across the board, and so you deliver again, okay, on another great winner, okay, for the customers and the variety of sites that you're at and everything else. So everybody's got to be pleased as punch with you as well right now, Ross.
Oh, absolutely. Well, that's our job, right? We always say that, we beat ourselves up when we go through a bad streak, but when things are going well, it's like, hey, that's what I'm supposed to do, kind of thing. But, you got to beat on your chest once in a while, Doug, because you got to mix into positivity once in a while and got to keep the negativity out of the equation as much as you possibly can. Although we know that sometimes can be very difficult. Anyway, Doug, the NBA, let's talk about that. We saw the
Yep.
game last night. Denver played a terrific game, in my opinion. Obviously, they won by 15 on the road at Miami. In the game, they pretty much were wire to wire in that game.
Yes.
So, what's your observations and maybe some thoughts going forward? What concerns may you have for the Miami Heat or not? Tell us what you think.
Well, they have pretty much taken Caleb Martin out of the series. I mean, it just everything that has gone, right for him, up to this point. And what it just seems like, if I could make, excuse me, an analogy, and I thought of this actually in two premises. It's the eighth seed, both from Florida. It's like the Cinderella ball is coming to the end. Okay, from that turning into a pumpkin, and yeah, and that's just what it feels like. Is that both teams are playing. They've gone through a long run. There's been a lot of emotion used. Miami, the hockey team's a little different because they had the long break, which I think really ends up hurting them, in a different way. But still, it's just not there. There's just not the juice, that you saw before. They're just not making the shots. It's just a different vibe. Denver is not a great defensive team. They do play good defense, but they're not a great defensive team. But their ball movement absolutely superior to what anything Miami has seen in the playoffs. Okay. And so I think that's the big thing. And they've really done a great job of taking advantage of situations. Anybody, with the Joker, somebody switches off on him. I mean, the ball goes inside immediately. Okay. And, now, Ross, the game last night just struck me again with this. Have you ever seen anybody that has a softer shot and in some cases puts up like just sloppy looking shots that continue to go in like Jokic? Okay.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
the ball hits like the kind of the front of the rim, it hits the backboard,
Just
hits the front part, and it still goes in.
great
Now, I mean,
touch. Yeah.
great soft shot. No question about it. But it's remarkable how many of those go in.
He reminds me too on some of his mid-range to 3-point line jumpers of Kevin McHale, the way he releases his jump shot.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Good
behind his
point.
head.
Yep.
And when you're that tall and it's behind your head, it's very, very hard to block it. But you most times than not with a big guy, you're just hoping to affect the shot and not block it. But he seems undeterred and he makes great decisions, like you just said. I mean, I remember a couple instances last night where they switched off on him and he had Jimmy Butler on him. And
Right.
Jimmy Butler's a great defensive player. We know that he's been a first team all NBA defensive player in the past. But again, the size difference, he just takes him down low and he's stronger and he's bigger. And like you said, Doug, his touch is just tremendous. Some interest. I want you to comment on this because I was researching for tomorrow, and some dichotomies I was looking at. You look at Denver, and they're just shooting 31% from the 3-point line in a series, but they've attempted a lot less 3-pointers than Miami has. On the other hand, they're shooting 59% from 2-point territory in the series. That to me is a difference. I mean, you look at Miami, 41% of their field goal attempts in the 3 games have been 3-pointers, and they're only shooting 46% from the 2-point line. Now, Denver has shot 50.6% or better in all 3 games, yet they're only averaging 107 a game. But the main reason for that is they're playing at a snail's pace. They're playing, I mean, I think all 3 games they were under 80 field goal attempts by NBA modern day standards. It's an extremely slow pace. And then again, when you shoot as well as they have, you're never going to be way up there in terms of field goal attempts, right, Doug? Because you're making a lot of shots.
Yeah, I actually, you mentioned that. I'm surprised they haven't run more. Now, in the first game, they did run more, but they seem more content, and it has to be by design. And my thought process is that they're looking to create mismatches, and so they're willing to take the time, they're willing to have the discipline to do that, and they believe that that's what they're going to get. And that was not unlike Miami in previous series, because there's not every team can play defense or wants to play defense for 24 seconds. So if you're patient enough and you're willing to move the ball, and if you won't settle just for threes, in their case, they get good shots, and in this case, then they're also making them. So that's a big thing. And like I said, Miami did that with the 3 ball in some of the previous series. They just kept moving it around, and there would be a mistake, and all of a sudden there's an open shot, for them, and they made them back then. They're not making as many doing that right now.
Yeah. They've shot poorly from the 3-point line in 2 of the 3 games. And I'm going to go with the fact that if they don't shoot 38% or better from 3 in this series, they're not going to have a real good chance to win. And even then it's because you shoot 38-40% from 3 in a game doesn't mean you're automatically going to win either. But the other side of the equation is they're not getting to the free throw line. It's well documented. They only got to the free throw line twice in game 1, right?
Right.
But they're still, I mean, you're looking at the other 2 games. The 3 games are averaging 13.7 free throw attempts per game. That's a little bit skewed with the 2 that they had in game 1.
Right.
But still, Doug, they're not getting to the line, and it's not the officiating, because they're settling for 3-point shots, and Denver's beating them at their own game. You hit it right on the nose. You were complimentary of Miami in prior series because of their ball movement and how meticulous they were moving the ball and being so patient until they get that right open shot, and they were knocking down those open shots. Denver's doing the same to them, in my opinion, but they're doing it more so in the mid-range game, and they're doing it more so going through the joker, right? I mean, so we'll see. I mean, they need to make some adjustments in game 4. That's for sure, Doug.
Well, the other thing too, Ross, I mean, let's just think about the last few champions. Okay. Now, we know that Golden State last year, they're known as a 3-point shooting team, but, they beat Boston by making a ton of points inside the half circle. So, with that, I mean, that's ultimately how you're going to end up winning a championship. Okay. You're going to have games where you're going to make a lot of 3-pointers. Every team is going to have that. But ultimately, you have to get the ball inside, or at least, within 15 feet of the basket, and then you have to make those shots. Yeah. And that's, I mean, that's just like basketball 101 forever. Okay. You're not going to shoot 40% in a 7-game series, or likely even if you swept somebody in a 4-game series, making 40% of your 3-point shots. Just not going to happen.
No.
So you have to have the right mix. And the other thing too that I think is not being talked about enough is Malone, the coach for Denver, how they've decided to attack them. We're talking about, ball movement. They're not leaving their guys. Sure, they make some mistakes, but essentially they're not leaving their guys. And they're just doing enough to bother their 3-point shooting, or at least that's the perception that you're given. You're not seeing as many wide open threes as what you saw in previous series by Miami.
Yeah, and I think Denver obviously has better rim protection defensively.
Yes.
And they can take some chances. In other words, say, hey, look, let's sell out and stop in the 3. And if they decide to take the ball to the hole, we can depend on our help defense because we have the size to do so. Miami doesn't have that luxury. As a matter of fact, Denver's not shooting a lot of threes, and they're eating them up down low and in the mid-range game. So we'll see if things change in game 4. One thing we can both say for certain, I think, is don't count Miami out, because Miami has shown a ton of resiliency throughout the playoffs. But like Doug says, is Cinderella losing her slipper right here? And we'll see. We'll know more by the end of Friday night's game. So in any event, the NHL, and we're talking to Doug Upstone of DocSports.com, folks. You're watching the Winner's Circle Sports Betting Network. If you have not subscribed to our channel, please take a second to do so. It costs you absolutely nothing. There's no strings attached. There's no hidden agenda. Just click on that WC button. The subscribe button will come up. Click on that. And then once you're there, click on your notification bell too, because you want to be alerted immediately upon us publishing any of our Winner's Circle Sports Betting podcast here on our channel. All right, Doug, the NHL, and then we'll get into our 2 Major League Baseball picks. And what can I say? I mean, Vegas 7-2, looking for a little bit of a bounce back from Florida in game 2. It actually was worse. They went from losing 5-2 to 7-2. What we thought was a strength of Florida was their power play against Vegas's penalty killing going into the season, Doug, or series, excuse me. And here we are 2 games in, and Florida's 0 for 7, while Las Vegas is 4 for 11, clicking at 36.4%. 11 power plays is a lot in 2 games in the playoffs.
Yeah, well, in Florida, I think I even texted you. I forget which game it was, but their lack of discipline, both physical and mental. I mean,
game one,
yeah, just silly penalties. I mean, they've undermined themselves, above and beyond the power play aspect of it. And the other thing that in watching that, I think I've noticed, and tell me if you agree, if the Vegas defensemen are somewhat bigger than the defensemen seen along the way, but yet they're not, they're still just as fast.
Yeah.
And so when Florida likes to forecheck, they're just not getting the same action by doing that out of what the success, I should say, they had against everybody else. And it's not working here. Now, that's not to say it can't work in game 3, but I'm hard pressed to believe that Vegas is going to lose both games in Florida. So this, to me, just as I sit here today, this looks like a 5-game series to me at this point.
Yeah, certainly can't argue with that. And the other concern is Sergei Bobrovsky, who is so good throughout the first 3 series, and he just can't stop a beach ball right now, for lack of a better phrase.
Right.
And Aiden Hill has just been terrific. Everybody keeps waiting for him to fold. Well, he's not folding. 11 starts this year in the postseason, 2 relief appearances, a .935 save percentage. First 2 games of this series, I think he's at .939. You can't win if you don't have good goaltending when you get down this deep into the playoffs. Right. And right now, Florida's not getting it. And it's discouraging because from a territorial standpoint, they haven't really been outworked that much from that standpoint, but it's deflating when your goaltender is not making the stops we saw him make in the previous 3 series. So
yeah, I mean, you're going to make mistakes on defense, and I'm going to say that that's going to happen. So the last line defense has to come through for you. The other thing too, that I'll just add this one last point. I think Vegas has gotten better. I think that's the other aspect to this equation, is that they just keep churning, as they've gone along, and so I think that they're quite literally playing their best hockey of the postseason right now.
Yeah. Well, and then you got key players like with Florida who have been in witness protection for the first 2 games.
Yes.
We haven't seen him. Sam Reinhart being one of them. He's got to step up. And the goaltending's got to come through. So,
hey, speaking of witness protection, has anybody seen Michael Porter Jr.? I haven't. Okay.
And
for
for Denver.
For Denver,
Yeah,
yes. Well, actually, what I've seen is I don't know if he's doing some part-time work as a bricklayer. Okay, from that standpoint, I'm
yeah,
not sure, but I have seen him take some attempts, and not many actually have gone through the net.
yeah,
Most of them seem to be clanging. Gets kind of loud when he's been shooting lately.
yeah. There's a lot of wind in the arena when he shoots.
Yes.
Anyway, all right, we're going to talk Major League Baseball here. And we got two pretty good matchups here. AL East Division matchup, even though the money lines don't sound like we got good matchups, but still. The Boston Red Sox and New York Yankees, which Doug will be covering. I'll be looking at Texas and Tampa Bay, the two best teams in the AL right now. But the Red Sox and Yankees series starts on Friday, and Doug is going to cover that for us. And it'll be Garrett Whitlock for the Boston Red Sox and Garrett Cole for the New York Yankees. Cole's been very good this season, but right now the Yankees minus 155. The total's 8, and Aaron Judge is back on the shelf. Doug?
Yeah, this is I don't know, maybe I'm making more about it. And by the way, before we get into that, one of the things that I'm going to talk about, how is the air quality by you,
Oh, it's
Ross?
terrible, buddy. It's
Okay.
terrible.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
I
mean, they
wondered.
told everybody we shouldn't go out of the house today. And
Okay,
yeah, because it all started in Nova Scotia, which
right.
is in the Canadian Maritimes, which it's far from here, but by the same token, if you know anything about the Canadian Maritimes, it's right on the Atlantic Ocean, and that's carrying the winds from the ocean, carrying it right
Yep.
up our way. So anyway,
Yeah.
thank you for asking.
So yeah, no, no, because but I think this potentially has something to do, and it impacts the one part of it for sure is that the Yankees having had their game on Wednesday, it's canceled. They have to play a doubleheader today, and it's a true doubleheader. They're
Yeah,
playing back-to-back games. Okay, from that standpoint, and hoping that they'll get this in. So that puts the Yankees at a little bit of a disadvantage, particularly in the context of bullpen. From that standpoint, as you mentioned, Garrett Whitlock will start for Boston. He's made 5 starts on the road, not good. 7.07 ERA, WHIP of 1.42. And the thing I went one step further because this has been kind of his trademark, but also just for this season, as he gets to the third time through the batting order, whatever he ends up facing, they're batting 462 against him with an on-base percentage of 500.
whoa, now that's
No wonder he's getting out of the games quick.
the bottom third of the order you're talking about.
No, the third time through the lineup.
Oh, third time through. Okay, I got
right.
you. Yeah.
So could be the late fourth, could be early fifth inning, whatever it happens to be. Then we got Garrett Cole. Now, as you mentioned, Garrett Cole's been very good, 2.82 ERA, which is excellent. But one of the things that has come up, and this is Yankee fans are really familiar with this, is that when he doesn't have good command of his fastball, okay, he gives up home runs. He's given up 8, but those 8, they've come in 4 games, all in 2s,
Yeah.
in that standpoint. So that's a bit of a problem, from that standpoint. Now, as you said, minus 155 for the Yankees here. Boston's dropped 7 of their last 10 going into Thursday. For a good part of the season, they were averaging roughly 5.5 runs per game. In their last 10, it's down to 4.2 that they've averaged. So the offense has definitely taken a step backward. Ross and I talked about the Yankees offense, be it feast or famine for the most part. In their last 5 games, they've only averaged 3.3 runs per game. Now, actually, again, maybe I'm making way more about this than I should be, but I think the conditions will have an impact, on the game. And I don't know exactly how, but I would think the mood of the park is not going to be the usual Yankees Red Sox if we have all this smoke in the air and everything else. So I think that plays a part in it. So I'm going to go with just what I think I do know. Okay. And I do know that the Yankees have the better starting pitcher. I do know the Yankees have the better bullpen. They have won 13 of the last 19 at Yankee Stadium against Boston. And when Cole has pitched against the Red Sox, the Yankees and Cole combined are 12-5. Okay, so with this, we're looking at a money line. You said of 155 on this one, and when Cole and the Yankees are a favorite of minus 125 to 175 this season. A perfect 10-0.
Yeah.
Ross, might be a little higher than I know you prefer, but
Yeah.
you know what? I think the Yankees that's the only way to play this game.
Yeah, I mean, I would try to make a case for the under, but Garrett Whitlock gets in the way, and so does Boston's bullpen. And I say try to make a case because of most of the stuff you said in regards to Boston's lack of offense all of a sudden, and Garrett Cole being on the mound, and the Yankees have a stellar bullpen, but you know you have to have a partner in the equation when it's an under, and the dance partner that the Yankees have in this matchup isn't conducive to a happy relationship that ends up being a low scoring affair. So I agree with you, Doug. Um, I don't like to lay those kinds of numbers, folks. But in this particular instance, if he's assigned the game, okay, this is not Doug making a play for his paid clients. I assign games to everybody at the beginning of the week, so everybody's not stepping on each other's toes, picking a game. Guys are in the same game. You've seen what we had to go through in the NBA playoffs when we got down to just one game a night. Trying to avoid that with a Major League Baseball schedule when you have 30 game or 15 games going on a normal evening. So having said that, the only logical play is the Yankees minus 155 over Boston. So there you go from Doug Upstone. And you can find all of Doug's premium paid selections. He's coming off winning his MLB 8-star game of the 8-unit, game of the year yesterday on the Miami Marlins. On the run line, easily demolishing the Kansas City Royals again. Watch out for them Marlins. I mean, I know they played Oakland and Kansas City the last two series, but, you know, the other teams in the division have to play them too. And they're winning like they're supposed to. So,
yes. Well, I mean, Oakland in the last 2 weeks took a series against Atlanta and Pittsburgh.
How about this kid from Miami hitting like 403, Doug? You know,
unreal. I mean,
insane.
I mean, they're still under 500 on run differential, but you know what? They're winning, and ultimately, if you're doing the betting, that's what matters. It doesn't matter what the run differential is, But for a game or selective games, got to go get it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's the kind of thing, the run differential that comes into play if we're picking futures, or is a team going to be able to sustain what they're doing right now? Then you can make that assessment and say, you know what, Ross, they're 7 games over 500, but they're a minus 1.2 run per game differential. I'm just throwing those figures out there.
Right.
They're probably not accurate.
No.
But by the same token, you know where I'm going with that. Anyway, let me talk about my game. Texas.
Oh, this is going to be I'm looking forward to this series, Ross. So I'm interested to hear what you got to say here.
Texas and Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay is minus 170 in this game. The total is 8. It'll be Andrew Heaney, the left-hander for the Texas Rangers, slated to start. And Tampa Bay will go with Tyler Glasnow, who actually was slated to start today, but he got bumped up another day. And to give him another day of rest because he's coming back from being injured. He's made 2 starts so far. Not bad. One was shaky. The last one was better, but lasted less than 10 innings combined in those 2 starts. But again, Tampa Bay at home, right, Doug? I mean, you mentioned this the other day. 28-6 they are now at home. It looked like they were going into a little bit of back and forth, a little bit of a tailspin after that red heart start. And like you touched upon in one of your videos, you said, well, they had nowhere else to go but down after that start. It's just not realistic to expect a team at the major league level to win at the rate they were. However, they keep winning at that rate at home. And but Texas, you know what? They're coming off a 1-0 loss to St. Louis, much to my chagrin. It was my free pick yesterday on Wednesday, and they had Thursday off, and actually my free pick on Wednesday. But here's the thing. Texas coming off a loss. I look at this stuff. It's important to me. Texas is 8-0 in their last 8 games coming off a loss. On top of that, they have not lost back-to-back games since May the 5th. That's 34 days. It'll be 35 days tomorrow. So that's consistency. Why am I mentioning all that? Because I'm making a case for the underdog against what seems to be an invincible opponent at home. Tyler Glasnow, again, I don't know how sharp he's going to be. If he returns to the form we saw the last 2 years, Texas is going to have a difficult time. I'm not sure that he's 100% healthy or right yet. He may be healthy, but he's still a little bit rusty, and he could be had. And this Texas team, if you know anything about them, they are coming off a shutout loss, but this team could put up runs, and they could hit the long ball with Tampa Bay. Andrew Heaney, on the other hand, 4 road starts this year, Doug. Texas has gone 3-1 in those games, a 1.82 ERA, a 0.89 WHIP, and averaging better than 6 innings pitched per start in those outings, which is important because Texas's bullpen is okay, but it's not great. And if the more that you could eliminate the bullpen out of the equation and then get into maybe 2 or 3 innings of work where you're looking at the bottom, the end of their bullpen that's expected to close down games, it gives them a better probability of winning. To me, I'm going to take a shot here. I mean, I'm going to 2 ways I'm going to go with this. And I know that I never do this, but it certainly makes sense to me in this situation. I'm going with Texas plus 145 on the money line. I'm also going to take the Rangers plus 1.5 at money line odds of minus 135. Now, why am I doing that? Well, because you're playing Tampa Bay. Okay, I'm going to bank on the fact that either Texas is going to win or they're going to lose a close game by 1 run. That's what I'm going with. As long as Tampa Bay doesn't win by 2, the worst I'm going to do is break even. If Texas wins, like I think they will, then I'm going to cash both tickets. So that's what I'm going to do, Doug. Your thoughts?
I think, well, Ross, you literally took the words right out of my mouth because as you were speaking, and I honestly I hadn't looked up any information on the game, and so the question I had is, okay, Ross, what is Texas going to be at plus 1.5 run line? Okay,
Yeah.
that's very first thing I thought of because this team can hit. So we've seen it all year. I mean, so from that standpoint, they can stay in games, they can come from behind in games, and they can make things uncomfortable. So with that being the case, to me, that's the place. And certainly at minus 135 to get 1.5 runs,
Yep.
I think that's a really nice price on that. And I think it's a very good value play as well.
Yeah, I'm using it as a safety net. Now I might get burned, and I'll live with it. But you know what I mean. My point being is, if they were playing anybody else besides a team that's 28-6 at home, I'd just go with the money line. But there you have it, folks. I'm on Texas plus 145 on the money line. Texas plus 1.5 as a safety net on the run line at money line odds of minus 135. And Doug is going with the New York Yankees minus 155 over the Boston Red Sox. Those 2 games go on Friday, June the 9th. Doug, tell the folks a little bit about what you may have coming up over the weekend.
Yes, well, like you've mentioned, and I appreciate. Yes, I did get my game of the year yesterday, and so besides that, made it 6 straight best bets. Okay, in Major League Baseball. So on a nice run there, I think that goes back almost 2 weeks. And then also just in general, the last week, 12-6 in baseball. Okay, up a little over $3,200. So that's been very strong there. NBA, like you, Ross, I took the money line last night with Denver, so just to play it safe, and it was obviously very safe. So that takes me to 20-12. I think that's 62.5%, and 50-33, which is a little over 60%. So I have set my sights on something for Game 4. So I'm likely to have a big play on Friday night for that at the moment. So that's been going well. I got USFL. Ross's favorite. I get hit 3 in a row. And so I'm looking at a big play there. And hey, this weekend we got the Belmont Stakes. Hopefully we have the Belmont Stakes. But if that's the case, I'm going to have some action there. I hit the trifecta and the exacta in the Preakness. I've won 5 of the last 8 Triple Crown races. So I'm looking to make it 6 out of 9 and keep the streak going this weekend, Ross.
Yeah, that Belmont Stakes, it would be a shame if it gets canceled. I don't know if they would push it back a week or whatever the case may be, but a lot of people make plans around the Belmont Stakes, and Doug's alluding to the air quality in New York right now because of the fires from Canada.
Because they canceled it today.
Yeah.
Today, Thursday.
Yeah.
No racing today.
Yeah. So we'll see what happens. Hopefully we can get that in, and nobody is at a serious health risk by doing so. You could find me at rbwins.com. And Doug just mentioned he's 50-33 with his last 83 in the NBA. And that's terrific, folks. And I'm not trying to outshine him. Doug knows. But when you're having a special kind of NBA playoffs like I am, I have to make mention of it. And I know Doug doesn't take it like I'm trying to outdo him.
Oh,
Because
goodness,
I'm
no.
not. And I know that he's happy for me as well. My NBA playoffs 40 or postseason 41-22 this year. That's 65%. That's not where it stops. How about my current NBA winning runs of 7-0 with my last 7, 14-4 with my last 18, and 24-8 with my last 32. So terrific NBA postseason. Last season's 36-24 during the postseason, so it's no fluke, folks. The last 2 NBA postseasons, 77-46, and that's somewhere around just a shade under 63%. So we'll take that. Major League Baseball 5-2 in the last 7, and also all sports run right now of 34-22, 61%. So things are going well for both myself and Doug Upstone. Visit Doug over at DocSports.com. Doug will be back with us on Monday. We'll be talking more Major League Baseball at that time. We'll be back tomorrow morning with Jesse Shule and Sean Higgs discussing Game 4 of the NBA playoffs. Until then, folks, thank you for viewing. We appreciate you. Take care and God bless.